I don't really know how to start this video off because this is a very interesting band, and learning more about this band, I feel like I can't make a funny or weird intro because this band is so weird and out there. So we're just gonna go right into it. So what's up, everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazbo coming at you with a new music review. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming on by. If you have just now discovered me, thank you for coming on by. I appreciate it. So today I am checking out the latest release from the band called Kaonashi with their album I Want to Go Home. So I'm pretty sure if you like this band, you probably found this video and everything, because what I've learned about Kaonashi, they have a very deep, eclectic, and very deep lore to the band that I didn't realize. But yeah, Kaonashi is a Philadelphia-based mathcore, post-hardcore, quite all over the place when it comes to genre style of band. They've been going since about 2012, and I remember around that time seeing this band and never really like diving into the band. To be honest and to be fair, the whole reason I never checked out this band before is I didn't like the band's logo. For some reason, personally, I was just like, I'm good. I don't want to check out that band. But me doing reviews and stuff, I love pushing my own personal feelings aside and just really looking at the music, checking it out for what it is, regardless of like the logo or whatever, and just really looking at the art that is being made here. And I gotta say, yeah, there's art being made here to their own like style, because I was doing research on this band. I didn't realize that this current album, I Want to Go Home, is the like finale to a trilogy they've been making with their music. It seems like which makes more sense because a lot of their music seems like it's tied around high school and everything. And there's like characters in this whole like story arc they've been making for the past couple EPs and albums. And people have been calling it like, there's like, I guess it's a Lemon House story and arc. There's a whole bunch of lore to this that maybe when I listen to this album, that maybe there's a lot of things I didn't understand the references, because there's so much more to. I'm listening to the tail end of a whole entire story. So maybe my review of this will be a little bit skewed because I don't have the full picture. And just reading into it, there's like things about how there's like, you know, all the albums are like being released in like a weird order. Like the first couple albums are like the end of a high school period, while this is like going into like the earlier years of high school. It's like reversed and everything. There's a lot of work here when it comes to understanding this band and the lore. And I think I just stumbled into something that I might not be fully prepared about. But these are my thoughts on this latest album from Kaonashi, I Want to Go Home. Like I said, I didn't realize there's a whole story behind it, so my review might be a little bit off. And I think I can easily say, and I think everyone can agree, that Kaonashi is a band that is willing to test the boundaries of music. And with this latest release, it seems like the band really kind of throws themselves into chaos without ever really being too concerned about comfort or consistency. And with this release, the post-hardcore slash mathcore band out of Philly, it seems like what I'm now learning, they're continuing, their narrative of very heavy emotional songwriting. But this time around, I won't say this time around, since this is my first time really experiencing them. I would say, from what I can understand and feel about this album, it feels very fractured, swinging between crushing heaviness, spastic mathcore style of playing, heartfelt post-hardcore like emotions, and lots of eerie stillness. And the opening song, Confusion in a Car Crash, is kind of like that, because it's a bit of a deceptive, confusing opening song here, because it drags the listeners into some very doom-laden riffs that are very thick and heavy. And with this particular song, there's a duality between, soft, melancholy music before it just gives way to like blunt force heaviness, which is something that really echoes throughout this whole album. And songs like, Slow Forms of Suicide and Elephant in the Room kind of lean into more punishing density with the riffs, and kind of remind me a little bit of Between the Buried and Me in terms of like how grand and labyrinthian these songs sound. But where Between the Buried and Me used complexity for precision, Kaonashi kind of let things unravel into very jagged edges and unsettling grooves, creating a sense of, instability instead of like having some mastery of their music. But I have to give it to them, because sometimes it's very dark, messy, and quite brilliant at times. But on the opposite side of things, Kaonashi often step into more melodic and more vulnerable territory, like on the song Extra Prayers, where they layer some really smooth bass and soft percussions to a lonely TV clip, painting like the sound of grief in an empty room. And with later tracks like on I think it's Sungvi 4 and Exit Part 7, they attempt to add some similar softness with some pianos and hushed singing. The former feels a little bit haunted and quite effective, but the latter song and everything, it feels a little convoluted. But both of these songs show that the band is willing to, let frailty sit alongside aggression. So when they commit to these moments, the emotional weight is quite convincing. And I'm pretty sure everyone has talked about this band in this particular manner, and they're probably the most noticeable thing. They're quite divisive. I'm pretty sure either people love them or hate them. There's no in between, I gotta say, I feel like. And that is, the vocal department. They use like a form of high-pitched fry vocal screams that are very like a staple of this band. But I would say often enough, they kind of clash with the dark grooviness that is beneath it all. Tracks like Fairmont Park really highlight this tension because you get some really anguish-soaked gutturals that give way to some really shrill deliveries that can feel a bit cartoonish and not as good compared to the band's otherwise menacing instruments. Yet when the band goes with some more clean vocal styles, like on the song When I Say or Jamie, Kaonashi seem to find a real soaring post-hardcore sweetness that feels entirely natural. And in these moments, it feels like to me like they're recalling like the 2000s emo scene music in the best way, because they're carrying some melodies here that really fit the band's intensity rather than really undercut it. And the backing vocals, I gotta say, they kind of outshine the lead vocals, especially on the song Fly on the Wall, where, the layered harmonies really save the riffs and the otherwise, very recycled feel of the song, but the backing vocals sound good. Musically, as a band, and with this album, I Want to Go Home, it thrives on just being unpredictable. Funky bass kind of bleeds into the gent-like style chugging from the riffs, and the spastic mathcore style that really they bring here dissolves into some really interesting and very clean acoustic passages. And at times they have some distorted riffs that get kind of twisted up in some really interesting rap scream cadences. Red Sink Yellow Teeth really embodies this spirit of shifting between dark gent style groovy music with some unsettling fluidity to it. And I will say one thing I did like about this album, and I gotta give credit to, is the production, because despite all the chaos that's being brought here, the instruments come in very nicely and clearly, giving a lot of the bands, and well, not the bands, but the band itself, a lot of weight to their sound. And they have this sprawling like series of songs at the end of the album that really try to give Kaonashi a very I guess different approach from like their other contemporary mathcore bands. From rock-leaning riffs and soaring cleans on part 1 to more mystical guitar solos of part 2, and then just the sheer density of part 3. And then finally leading into a very piano-led melancholy song on part 4. This series functions as both a very like a summonation of the band and a very I guess, deconstruction of the band at the same time. At times, it's quite brilliant, and at other times, it's quite frustrating. So I would say it leaves the listener, unsure whether Kaonashi are really holding everything together or they're just letting everything collapse on purpose. And pretty much these last 4 songs are really like, there to show the real essence of what this album is. It's an album that, thrives on contradictions, riffs that crush while vocals are very graded, and then you have moments of haunting atmosphere undercut by awkward transitions, and songs that feel very both meticulous but yet very messy at the same time. And it seems like Kaonashi really want to keep you uncomfortable here because you don't know whether you're questioning if they're like a genius band or, they're just creating pure chaos. It's not a perfect record because, vocals often kind of undermine the band's strongest ideas, and some of the riffs feel a little bit recycled, but the elements that really lock in the band and sound really good hit with a very rare intensity. The clean vocals soar, the bass cuts really deep, and the riffs bend and go through different genres without really breaking too hard. At its best, I Want to Go Home feels like a soundtrack to a nervous breakdown. ugly, beautiful, absurd, and painfully human. It's a chaotic, frustrating, but deeply unique record. Kaonashi's willingness to bend, spastic mathcore, doom-laden heaviness, and earnest post-hardcore melodies ensures that I Want to Go Home won't leave you indifferent. It's either gonna like captivate you or you're gonna be begging for silence. There's no in between with this record, I feel like. So even though I feel like the score I'm about to give it might be a little bit on the in between side, but overall, I would give this latest album from Kaonashi, I Want to Go Home. Like I said earlier, it's a part of a trilogy. I'm listening to the tail end of the trilogy, so maybe my review is a little bit off, but I would give it an okay to satisfying 7 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this band and other bands in the similar wheelhouse of mathcore I should check out. And until next time, guys, see you in the pit.